So, you want to render skin, but you're too lazy to gather references for your painting? Don't worry, I got you. For starters, this is my art. And this is the art that inspires me to render the way that I do. Obviously, they are miles apart, but well, I will get there eventually. And I will put the sources in my description, if I don't forget. Now, let's start with the actual tutorial. I would recommend vaguely thinking about what you want to draw or convey before doing so, since this will eventually affect your lighting and shading. But if you have no idea and you instead just want to do that around, I will also show you a basic way to shade that works on every character regardless of skin tone or lighting. So we will start by base coloring our object. You take the tool of your choice, in my case it's the lasso tool, and you fill the area out that you want to be filled out with your skin tone. I mean, there's no right or wrong in doing this. It's art after all. I'm just showing you the way that I do it. And other artists as well, like, I'm not that original. By the way, this technique works for pretty much all skin colors. I copied the exact same layers from the peach tone onto the brown tone and just adjusted the values and the saturations within the settings. Alrighty, you're doing a good job. You got this. So, how do you start the shading? If you struggle with color picking, simply create a multiply layer with the color of your base layer and work from there. You can adjust the colors after you painted them on, and that way decide how dark the shadow is supposed to be. I start by using the lasso tool again, and I take a soft airbrush to fill out the areas. While adding shadows, I follow the face shape and the way it's sculpted. For example, try to think of aspects like, do they have a sharp jawline, high cheekbones, or maybe a full face? Because this will initially influence the way how shadows will look like on your character. I will usually use one or two multiple layers and just stack them on top of each other to create different degrees of shadows. Artists also often differentiate between hard and soft shadows. By hard shadows, you mean, well, shadows that have like a hard line separating them from the lighter areas. And by soft shadows, there will be a gradient between both of them. A tip to those who don't know where to place what: usually around the eyes there will be hard shadows, underneath the nose and lips as well, especially if the light comes from above. And the neck is also a good spot to place like hard shadows. But where do the soft shadows go? Well, in other areas, you can even combine both of them. I place the soft shadows around the cheek or arms, but they can vary from character to character. Imagine you're drawing a skinny character with really high cheekbones, and you want to emphasize that. In that case, you could put the hard shadows on the cheeks as well. If you have a soft, round, really fluffy character with full cheeks, you would make them more soft. On a really muscular character, for example, you would also use more likely hard shadows to emphasize how big their muscles are. But those are just guidelines and not rules. I would personally use a combination of both of them, depending on what body type or face type the character has and what you're trying to convey with that. Now that we placed the shadows, we gotta figure out where the lighting goes. Well, usually not on those places where you already put the shadows, with the exception of the bounce light. Your character is an object, and everything that our main light source hits, for example the sun, will reflect light onto the objects around them. For example, if one body part of your character is hit by a light source, it can reflect onto other body parts of the character as well. This will create the so-called bounce light I'm talking about. Whenever we use bounce light, it creates a three-dimensional and somewhat realistic look. You can place a soft bounce light right there where your darkest shadow is supposed to be. Just keep in mind that a bounce light doesn't always make sense, so I'll try to keep it decent and not overuse it, depending on the scenario and the situation I'm drawing the character in. Now onto my favorite step: adding color and life to the painting. Now that we figured out the base shadows, we're gonna make it fancy. In this step, you're free to try whatever you like. Go over the different layer modes and see what fits you. What I personally like to do is using really warm tones like orange in combination with cold tones like blue. In this case, I stick with the overlay layer, but honestly, you can try out and see what fits your piece the best. Don't be afraid of experimenting. It's digital art after all. Congratulations, we're almost finished. In this step, I like to merge all my layers into one, and I will show you why. So once your layers are merged, you can add cool ass effects on the piece, like more fancy bounce slides from the environment, or you can change the mood completely. Sometimes I like to go over with the basic round brush, and trust me, there's like barely any drawing platform you can't find this on. And I was on Sketchbook, I was in Ibis Paint, I was in Medibang, and on Clip Studio. This is just one of the basic brushes. And I take it and go over the stuff that I don't like by now. For example, I add those little light reflections within the eyes or on the nose or, juicy lips effects. You can even color your sketch or your line art. And of course, the master of touch-ups is the liquify tool. Well, thank you for listening. I would say this was it. I'm not really good at this. This is technically my first video. So if you have any questions left, feel free to drop them in the comments. But for now, you're dismissed from class, kids.